Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sparring Partners Podcast. My name is Kobe McKinley, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Brad Jones.
Yo, what up?
We have just ended a 12-day celebration of the New Year's, as is customary in our community. What community that is, do your own research. But today we're here to talk about mixed martial arts, as we always do on Sparring Partners Podcast. Brad, how was your 12-day celebration of the New Year?
It was very fun in the beginning, and then it got very boring. And now, ready to kick the boringness and rev up some fights.
That's how I felt today as well. I was, I was hanging out today because I'm off from work, and I was sitting around. I was hanging with my cat and my other two cats as well, and my dog. And I was thinking, man, I don't have to start on those prelim previews yet. And then I realized I did. So I did that mostly all day today. So
Nice.
working on the preview 3 in 1 week, man. It's a lot. It's a lot of fights. It's fun watching tape. But sometimes it's not so fun. There's certain fights, man, watching footage for them that I'm just immediately disinterested.
Yeah.
It's just the talent. There's a couple fighters, one of which is 3-5 in their UFC career, and the other is 0-3 in their UFC career.
Well, that just sounds like it's going to be a banger.
If either athlete wants to keep their job, it better be, because I don't know. I mean, the one who's 3-5, I'm not sure how she's still in the UFC. I mean, like, genuinely, I don't know. But yeah, not elite. But you know what is elite? The PowerPoint for this week.
Yeah.
A staple of the Sparring Partners Podcast. No more just going around on the frickin' well, if my toolbar would go away, then it would look even better. There we go. Now, nope, Jesus. Okay. All right, there we go. So no more just scrolling around on the internet for us here at the Sparring Partners Podcast. We have production value now in the form of Google Slides. So, Brad, if you want to go ahead and get ready, we'll go ahead and take a look at our a longer look, because it just messed up, at the things we'll be looking at today.
Bring it on.
Yeah. On today's episode of the Sparring Partners Podcast, we're taking a look at UFC Fight Island Holloway Kattar. We're also taking a look at UFC Fight Island Chiesa Magny, which I figured we'd say, we'd say a decent amount about. But by our next episode, it'll still be, it still will have not happened yet. So if any news breaks as far as more fights fall off or anything like that, we'll keep you posted for the fight card. And then some bouts for UFC 258 and 259 got announced. And in a new segment, odds and ends. It's all the news stories that, I don't know. All right, let's get on with the show. So let's talk about UFC Fight Night Holloway Kattar. In the main event, let's move us on over to here. In the main event, we of course have Max Holloway, former champion, taking on surging contender Calvin Kattar. But before we get to the main event, let's talk about some of the other fights on the card, and we will start with the prelims of note. Uh, Prelims of note, they could be just like, huh, good, that could be fun, or just things that, well, I mean, it's just the notes are our own, and we'll maybe inform you of what they are. I included a couple. Um, Phil Hawes is back, fresh off his 18-second knockout in his UFC debut. Brad, this is why I included in this one. I was actually curious about your thoughts about Phil Hawes. Graham, we only saw him for 18 seconds, but does he seem like a guy who got a gift in his debut or a guy that has a lot of upside?
A guy I don't know very much about. Like you said, we've only seen him for a few seconds. In those seconds that we saw, looks like a guy that's got plenty of upside. So excited to see what he's got to bring to the table. But he's largely an unknown. Big question mark coming into this. So we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, and his first fight, I did hear some chatter about some favorable matchup in his first bout, but when you immediately in your next bout get unheralded Russian, they're not doing you any favors.
No.
So I'm really curious how he comes out of this one. The other one I included because I'm surprised it's on the prelims. You have Tom Breeze taking on Akhmedov. Of course, Akhmedov, fresh off his well, not fresh. It was a few months ago, but he lost a decision to Chris Weidman in Weidman's do or die fight. And Tom Breeze is his last bout was a stoppage. Do you have any thoughts on that prelim of note?
I'm very excited about it. Tom Breeze got a lot of hype behind him coming over from the UK. That's a guy that all the British dudes are talking about a lot. Excited for it. Amari Akhmedov has become very, very solid, like number 15 gatekeeper. Like he's the guy that you beat to get into the 10 to 15 range. So if Tom Breeze can get past him, then he's looking at like a 13, 14 ranking, and he can really start working through those middleweight rankings.
Yeah, and that's the thing about really both men, Akhmedov and Tom Breeze. They both are dudes who, on paper, seem to have it. The tools that you would want in a complete mixed martial artist. Tom Breeze is also massive. How he ever made 170 is a mystery to me. Yeah, I'm curious because Tom Breeze, he's both men I would say are well rounders or all rounders, with slight edges in, maybe Tom Breeze has a little bit better stand up. Akhmedov is a little bit of a better grappler, as is customary against a man of Eastern European descent, but it's not unthinkable to think that either man could win in the area the other one's thought to have a strength. That's why I love the matchup.
Yeah.
And then Soriano takes on Dusko. Battle of the undefeated, as we say in this game, and then any other game where people have win-loss records. The O must go.
Yeah.
There. I wish I would have watched some footage of Dusko, because if memory serves, there's a little bit of hype on that fella as well.
Yeah, there is.
So yeah, both are relatively young, and if Soriano is any indication, this fight should be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Joaquin Buckley is back. Yeah, let's see if he can make it 3 in a row as far as stoppages.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't know too much about Alessio Di Rico.
Yeah, I don't either.
This is actually the downside to not just floating around on the internet, is that we could figure out who that guy is, but not gonna be bothered. I'd rather have a cleaner presentation.
Yeah, this is the better way to go.
And then Ponzinibbio takes on Liang Li. Dude,
Yeah, boy.
dope, dope, dope. I was just doing a dude who Lee beat um at UFC Beijing. I was doing his I was watching footage of him earlier today, and he fought Jing Lie Ling, or Jesus, Lee. And every time you kind of forget about Lee until he's on the card, and then you're like, oh yeah, China has produced, weirdly enough, a really hard hitting welterweight.
Yeah, and a guy that's like super durable. Like he gets in these like just these wars. Um, yeah, no, that is going to be incredible. I mean, Ponzinibbio's record is like outrageous. I mean, it's padded to some degree, but like that is a stellar record. I mean, he's a guy that was on a roll, was fighting in main events, finished Neil Magny in his last fight. Was I want to say number 7 in the rankings when he was removed due to inactivity. So yeah, that could be your real co-main or even a main event on a fight night card. So I mean, in 3 days later, Neil Magny is fighting in a main event, and in his last fight, Neil Magny was stopped by Ponzinibbio. So Ponzinibbio is a guy that is like a real contender in that division. Um, Jiang Li is like super durable. That fight is just going to be a banger. It's going to be great.
And then just a note for anyone watching the episode, the numbers by the people's names. I cut these out from Tapology. These are the Tapology rankings, not any sort of like official UFC or journalist rankings. It's the user generated Tapology rankings. So I'm not sure what. So Ponzinibbio is no longer ranked at all.
He has been removed completely from the UFC rankings due to inactivity quite a while ago. Yeah,
How long has it been since he fought?
2 years, I want to say. Like almost
Wow.
2 years.
Okay. Well, I did. That's one of those things is that in a sport like this where things change so quick and guys rise up so quick and fall off really quick, um, I hadn't. I just thought maybe he got lost in the shot. I forgot that he had gone away. I thought maybe he got. Honestly, that 3, the 27-3 is honestly. I'm having like a Mandela effect moment right now because I'm like, he had to have lost way more than just 3 times because I thought I remembered him losing more than that, but that fight should be awesome. And then in the co-main event, we got 2 dudes who I was just discussing this the other day. Is there's very few guys now where I have an emotional attachment as to whether or not they do well or they lose. Um, and really, the only guys I feel that with are dudes who I watched and I looked up to growing up. Um, and this is a fight where I feel the same way about both guys. They're both guys that I would be emotionally involved watching the fight, hoping that they come through. But maybe it'll soften whoever loses. Maybe it'll soften my emotions knowing that they lost to another old dog.
Mhm.
How do you feel about that co-main event?
In terms of matchmaking, I mean, it is good matchmaking. I mean, you're putting old dull steel against old dull steel, but my only hope out of this is that they both retire regardless of what happens. I mean, Matt Brown had already retired. It just came out of retirement for this fight. Carlos Condit, while he did finally just get a nice win over Court McGee, he was on a really bad, long losing streak before that. And he's been taking a lot of time off. He's old. He's taken a lot of brutal damage in his career. Um, Love both the guys, but I really want Matt Brown to be done after this, and I would like Carlos Condit to also be done after this, or maybe one more. Um, but it'll be fun. It'll be a nice, fun fight. Two old guys at the very end of their careers give us, one more good performance. These guys, I put them both in the same category. We'll get there a little later, as Diego Sanchez, essentially, who's been talking like one more and then I'm out of here.
Yeah, I think it's the next evolution in making the sport as safe as possible. Um, we've heard for years now that gyms have renovated the way that people train. Of course, there's still hard sparring in MMA. There's really no way to get away from hard sparring in MMA. According to, I mean, I've never heard of a fighter who doesn't at least do 1 day a week. Um, but these older fighters, the ones who've looked after things enough to where at this point MMA is just a thing they do, and they've kind of throughout their career they've slowly transitioned into other businesses and other ways to make money, um, and they just fight once a year. They just are like, yeah, um, I'll fight every summer. That's what I'll do. And I think that's going to be with older guys, maybe not the generation of Condit and Brown, but maybe just one generation behind them. I think we'll see a lot of older athletes that, once they hit their mid 40s, if it's a thing they want to do, they'll just do it once a year. They'll just, they're not going to make, like, neither Carlos Condit and Matt Brown, neither one of themselves, I would imagine, are thinking like, yeah, this fight is the beginning of my climb back to contention.
Yeah.
No, they're either doing it to make money or they're doing it because they want to do it, or both. That's it.
Yeah.
Like there's no striving to be best in the world at this point in the Condit Brown matchup. It's literally just like, we don't want to lose the opportunity to see some version of Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown before both men retire.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. I mean, I would have, if these guys would have never fought. Well, I mean, we're not to Saturday yet, so cross your fingers because we're in COVID age. But assuming this fight happens on Saturday, if it would have not happened, right? This is definitely a fight that, if I thought of missed fights in the welterweight division, Condit Brown, without a doubt, would be near the top of the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see whatever version of them shows up on Saturday, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited for it. Um, and both men still helping make history, even at an older age, and not quite in the title hunt anymore. They're going to be the first ever co-main event on ABC.
Yeah.
So, and then that brings us to our main event. Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar. You have Holloway coming off of a razor thin, as close can be, split decision loss to Volkanovski, and Kattar, who has won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
His last fight being Ige.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you think this one goes down?
It's definitely going to be a banger. I'm very excited for that fight. Two young guys. Essentially, I mean, you basically already have locked in. It's not official yet, but essentially locked in for March, April timeframe. You're looking at Ortega and Volkanovski. So if you pencil that in, if Calvin Kattar gets a big finish over Max Holloway, then I would pencil him in as your next guy to fight the winner of that next title fight. Now, if Max wins, in all honesty, I don't think this does much for him. This keeps him at number one, basically. It sets him up to fight another top featherweight, like a Zabit or a Yair, right? So Max, not necessarily that much to gain, but his objective here is to hold the number one spot. And until Volkanovski loses to someone, if and then like this could all be out the door if Volkanovski loses to Brian Ortega, and Max gets a nice win over Calvin Kattar, then I mean that this could all change in an instant. But this division is very interesting with Max essentially your uncrowned king. I mean, I'm still of the belief that he won the second fight and is the best featherweight in the division. I know a lot of MMA fans feel that way. So it's a situation of like until he can fight for the belt again, he's just gonna just kill your contenders. He's gonna sit there and kill all your contenders coming up. But hey, Calvin Kattar gets a chance to take out the former champ on ABC network television. Huge opportunity earlier in the day. It's going to take place at around 5 p.m. on Saturday. So yeah, huge opportunity for everybody involved. Should be great.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you're exactly right as far as Holloway's really just fighting to keep his place in line. I mean, and also let's be honest, Max Holloway, unless he goes on a huge skid, is never going to be too far away.
No, he's a favorite. He is a favorite child of the UFC, much like Joanna is. He is always like he has a huge fan following too. Like he's the guy.
Yeah, yeah, and for Cutter, I mean, Cutter, not that he's not a super fun guy to watch, but there's just something there's just some fighters that, hey man, he even if he goes out here and starches Holloway, I don't think he has very much casual appeal.
Mm.
If you know what I mean? And I mean, his marquee win is over Dan Ige. So this is a huge, huge opportunity for Calvin Cutter to at least cut through the noise. Because I mean, he's gonna have a little bit of time between when this bout takes place and when Volkanovski is going to be ready, or Ortega would be ready to defend. So while in a perfect world, a win over Max Holloway would put him in title contention. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, Max Holloway really, really needs this win because if he does not win, I don't even know where you go from there. I don't know where you go from there. Honestly, it's not an easy road for Holloway either way it goes, because as long as, like you said, as long as Volkanovski is champion, Holloway is not getting another shot. I mean, Holloway would have to go on the craziest run ever to get another shot at Volkanovski. And that's not even because the UFC would be unwilling. And that's not even because the fans would be unwilling to watch it. Volkanovski is very clear. He's like, I am 2-0. It's not, it's a non issue. I'm 2-0. I don't want to fight him again.
Mm.
And from Volkanovski's perspective, that's pretty understandable. I mean, it's not a rubber match. It's just giving Holloway another chance. So, yeah, I mean, even though a lot of people think that he won, unfortunately for Holloway, whatever's on paper is ultimately what matters. And so he's got a long road ahead if Volkanovski does not lose his next defense.
Yeah.
So that is Holloway Cutter. There's some other prelims and stuff, but I figured that this would be the best way to just include the ones that are of note and not be and not just look at a page of names and just be like, I don't know if fuck that is. All right. Next for Wednesday. Another card on Fight Island. Michael Chiesa, Neil Magny. And this is another this is gonna be a fun fight card. Because when I look at cards like this and I look at a bunch of people, as a fan who watches literally every card and every fight on every card, and then I look at the card that's to come, and I'm like, I don't know who half these people are. I usually can expect a banger of a card. So I had a couple of prelims of note to get things started. We had Tyson Nam and Matt Schnell. I included this. This is of note to me because I think that fight is going to be bonkers.
Well, sweet. This is going to be your time to shine because I have no input on anything other than the main event. I know two people outside of the main event on this entire card. I got nothing. I'm just gonna sit down on Wednesday and let the fights wash over me on the rare Wednesday card.
Okay. Well, all right, I'll do my best.
Yes.
But we're going to revisit. No. We're revisiting this on Monday. We're going to revisit it on Monday because by then I will have watched tape on the card, not the whole card, the prelims, and I will have. Well, we'll have this in two parts. Tyson Nam and Matt Schnell are both. There is a fair amount. Actually, weird enough, I did not mean to pick two flyweight bouts as my prelims of note. Tyson Nam and Matt Schnell. I just picked that fight because both dudes are known to get in some pretty crazy fights, especially Tyson Nam. Stu Madajri is, I can't remember his last fight, but he got like a 30-second KO. It was so fast, and he hit so hard for flyweight. So I put him on there. And also, it was really weird. Zaruk Adeshev must be coming in from a different sport because if he's not, dude, this is some of the craziest matchmaking I've ever seen in the UFC.
Yeah.
Because Madajri legit got one of the best KOs at flyweight I've ever seen in his last fight. And now he's fighting a dude who's 3-2.
Yeah, there's not a lot of fighters in the UFC with a 3-2 record. I mean, compare that against this Douglas Andrade character right above him with this insane 26-3 record.
Yes. But that is honestly, that is one thing about shallower weight classes that I've noticed is the UFC is a little bit more forgiving when it comes to your record. You know, like if you wanted to be a UFC lightweight and you came knocking on the door and you're like, I'm 6-6.
Yeah.
Sign me. They'd be like, no, get out of here. But if you are a women's featherweight,
you may be the only person that showed up.
No, I mean even if you're a women's bantamweight, I'm 6-6. By God, you're a UFC athlete. Get in here. We need the bodies. Yeah. So, or a heavyweight for that matter.
True.
I mean, what's his name? I mean, Juan Adams.
Adams, yeah.
That's all I gotta say. Yeah. Listen, Juan Adams, he came in, he swung hard, he did his best.
Let us not forget the classic Christian Warcraft.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
When Sean McCorkle requested the worst heavyweight that the UFC had.
Right. Oh, I mean, Sean McCorkle.
And he beat Sean McCorkle.
Yeah.
He beat him.
He stopped him. Yeah. I mean, Sean McCorkle, for that matter. I mean, Sean McCorkle, the only good thing, well, I mean, not good, because I have Mark Hunt. I love Mark Hunt. We saw Mark Hunt get his arm broken live.
Yep.
By arguably one of the lamest UFC heavyweights of all time.
Yeah.
McCorkle.
Yep.
Oh, God, he's from our state.
Yeah.
Warley Alves is on the card.
Yeah.
I hope
that was one of the two names I knew. It's Roxy and Warley. Those are the two people that I'm familiar with on this card.
And Modafferi is either going to roll this person with less fights, or Viviane Araujo is supposed to be really good.
Yep. Well, one or the other.
It's one or the other. That's the kind of expert analysis you can expect from the Sparring Partners podcast. Leon Murphy, again. Leon Murphy is either really good at 9-0, or Douglas Andrade is getting 27-3 after Wednesday. Okay, in all seriousness, what do you think about the main event? Let's just cut to the chase.
There we go. Okay.
What do you think of the main event? Go on.
Main event. Exciting fight at welterweight. So welterweight's been kind of weird over this past year. I feel like the top of it's been kind of inactive. I mean, you have Colby and Jorge that have both been essentially radio silent since summer. They're presumed to be fighting each other at some point. Then you got Usman booked against Burns. That's about it. I mean, welterweight, you just had Wonder Boy get a nice win, taking out a lower ranked guy. Other than that, welterweight essentially has just been stagnant all year. So I'm just excited to get, I mean, one of these guys are going to be like an established top 10 welterweight after this. Neil Magny, again, has fallen into kind of a gatekeeper position of like the top 10, basically. Like he just holds the door for the top 10. Chiesa went on that. He had a nice run at lightweight, but hit a rough patch at the end, and so he switched it up and went up to welterweight. He's had a really good run there so far, but also a lot of his bigger wins have been against some of these older guys that are on their way out, like a Carlos Condit. So I'm excited to see what he does against Neil Magny, who a guy considered to be, he's not necessarily young, but he's still in his prime, I would think, or closer to it. So it should be a highly competitive fight. Neil Magny can still put on good fights. So yeah, I'm excited. That's a good fight.
Yeah, it's a really weird main event, to be honest. I mean, we'll see later in odds and ends. There was a certain fighter who requested to replace the injury, right? Looked offered to fight. It was either Magny or Chiesa. We'll see in the headline. But yeah, a weird main event, one that I fully expect to go all 5 rounds. That's immediately what I thought. Because both men are relatively tall, both men are lanky, neither man has, I would say that Magny has, in my mind, a pretty clear-cut stand-up advantage as far as activity, movement, and use of his weapons. His striking game is really well adapted to his body type.
Yeah.
In a way that Michael Chiesa isn't. Michael Chiesa, I think of primarily as a grappler.
Yep.
And unfortunately for Michael Chiesa, Neil Magny is a fantastic grappler. Grappler is probably the wrong word. A fantastic grinder.
Mhm.
Magny's down to bounce around and jab your face, but he's also down to grind against the cage.
Yeah.
Um, so really, it's going to be a matter, in my mind, can Chiesa overwhelm Magny? And if he can't, he's going to lose a decision. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that.
so that's how I feel about the main event. I think it's going to be a fun watch. I think it'll err on the side of strategic. I don't see it being necessarily a a
Barn
war.
burner.
You
No,
know, I don't see it being Hermanson Vittori.
no.
It being more like uh Usman, well, an Usman fight.
Yeah.
That's it, you know. Um, so I am excited about it. And actually, like I said at the start of this, I'm excited for the whole card because I really do. Um, when I don't know the fighters very well or I'm not as familiar with them, it's a card stacked full of fresh faces. You know, I used to think that it was because all the fighters in the card they were trying to prove something or whatever, but in reality, it's just because my a Wednesday card headlined by Michael Chiesa and Magny. I'm just happy there are fights on a Wednesday.
Yeah. Starting
So,
at 9
like,
a.m. too. Like,
I'm down for whatever happens, to be honest. And there's some really great fights on this card. We got a light heavyweight contest. Those are usually fun. They're like, they have the, I like light heavyweights because they have the danger of a heavyweight with the gas tank of not a heavyweight. So they're usually pretty good. Um, honestly, I'm always down to watch Mata Ferry. She is just, for whatever reason, she has like this feeling of like a feel good story. Win, lose, or draw, I come away from a Mata Ferry fight being like, man, she set a goal and she did it.
yeah.
Like you never expect her to win. She's constantly underestimated.
Mhm.
And it feels good watching her win. And then of course, Warley Alves, I, I'm a huge fan of the dude. He's so explosive. Uh, he hasn't quite been the same since Nowitzki and the gang came into the house, but let's hope he can turn that around. Um, you know, uh, it really sucks because even though I just kind of threw it out there, I also think that it's true.
Yeah.
So it really sucks because Warley Alves used to be a guy who I was like level 10 excited about.
Mhm.
I mean, he has a win
Showed
over.
a lot of potential early on.
Am I wrong on that? It
No.
seems wrong. Yeah, he won. He beat Covington. He stopped him, right?
Yeah. Well, one person stopped him. Was that? Or I don't know if that was Alves, but somebody stopped him
It was a
fully.
guillotine.
Yeah.
It was a guillotine. I
Yeah.
think you had. All right, we'll move past it. But Warley Alves, yeah, look at it. Look it up. Look it
Yeah.
up for the people.
Yeah. It was. It was Warley Alves submission. Warley Alves submission. UFC 194 and 2015. First one
Whoa,
submission too.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was his only loss other than the Usman loss.
Wow. Man, good for Alves. Okay, well, I think that probably I'll include this slide next week as we look
Yeah.
more into the card. Maybe we can each come up with like some more details and some of the undercard that we're excited about. Um, but yeah, we'll go ahead and move on. There were a couple of fights that were announced. And the first one is Usman Burns, made official. The rest of the card looks awesome as well. This lineup of fights, I even, we got a 6-fight main card headlined by Kamaru Usman facing down Gilbert Burns. Finally. Macy Barber in the co-main event, Alexa Grasso. That's a really great fight, and it's really weird that I feel like Macy Barber got an upgrade in opponent, even though she lost her last fight. Weird to me. Weidman taking on Uriah Hall in a rematch of a regional fight where Hall got knocked out by Chris Weidman. Kelvin Gastelum is back to fighting just normal dudes, and Ian Heinisch. Rodolfo Vieira, a dude with a ton of hype on him, takes on Contender Series vet Anthony Hernandez. And Pedro Munoz takes on Jimmy Rivera in a fight that I am certain is going to be fun to watch. Brad, how do you feel about that main event?
The main event's going to be excellent. Gilbert Burns is a guy that every once in a while there'll be a guy that comes into a division and like gets like 1 or 2 wins, and he's like the number 1 contender. Like Darren Till. Like Darren Till cuts his teeth at welterweight, and then he goes up to middleweight, has 1 fight, and then is ranked like at number 3. So Gilbert Burns is a guy that did all his work at lightweight and then comes up to welterweight, and then out of nowhere, gets 2 wins. He beats Maya, and then all of a sudden he's fighting Woodley, and then just murks him, and then all of a sudden he's the new number 1 contender out of nowhere. Hasn't fought anyone else in the top 10. But here's the thing: Usman's already obliterated most of this division, and very dominantly with his dominant style. Gilbert Burns is clearly the most interesting matchup against Usman in that division. A former teammate, a guy that's well-rounded. It's going to be great. I mean, Usman's obliterated most of that top 170 already, and everybody up there seems to be a lot of specialists still at 170. Gilbert Burns is more of a well-rounded guy. So very excited for that main event. Should be great.
Do you know who moved camp?
Burns.
Where did he go? Do you know?
I did, but I don't remember. His back when he had mentioned it back when he was supposed to be fighting in the Masvidal spot.
Okay.
But now I don't remember off the top of my head.
Right. So this fight was made official, and of course, when we get closer to this, it takes place February 13th. We'll go into more detail on the card. But the other fight that was announced to top 3, count them, 3 title fights in a single night. It's finally official. We thought it was official. It was not official, but now it is. Jan Blachowicz taking on middleweight champion Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
So, we thought it was official before, but it turns out it wasn't, but now it is. And dude, this is a great fight. And it's one that, in my mind, is really not a foregone conclusion, because the arc for Blachowicz is to be underestimated, and he certainly is in this one. People are just the general feeling, the momentum of the universe for Israel Adesanya seems to be he's going to win it. And that seems to be when Blachowicz wins.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited. Also, get ready. Go ahead and buy your Monster energy drinks, because this is going to be a light one.
God, 4 champions fighting on one card, 3 title fights. I fully expect some of those to go to decision.
Oh,
Yeah,
I expect all of them to go to decision.
it's gonna be a long one.
Um, yeah, actually, you know what? If you had to pick one not to go to decision, which one do you pick?
Yeah. Ooh, maybe Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling.
Yep, me too.
Probably, yeah. Yeah,
And
I really think highly of Sterling's ground game, and I just haven't seen Peter Yan um, aggressively have to defend takedowns and work off his back. So I think it'd be very interesting. I'm
yeah,
excited that got rebooked.
and then the rest of that main card.
Yeah. Oh
You
God,
know, it's only
Rakic
two
versus
more
Thomas
fights.
is crazy.
But the fact that Dominic Cruz is fighting Casey Kenny, that's a really weird matchup to me, man.
Yeah.
It's really a
Like
missed opportunity. I feel like there's just more than a couple other fights that would have made sense for Cruz, other than a young dude who, while really good, didn't necessarily have like a signature win. Because in my mind, Dominic Cruz is still a dude where you get a signature win, and then you get a chance to get a signature win over Dominic Cruz.
yeah.
And Casey Kenny, I mean, he's super good. He's really
Yep.
good. But I think it's more a test of is Cruz slowing down rather than how good is Casey Kenny. That may be unfair, but that may be unfair to Casey Kenny. But um, yeah, that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Thiago Santos is more than likely going to lose a decision to Rakic.
I might actually have him get knocked out by Rakic, honestly.
Nah, see, that is how I feel about it. If Rakic didn't want to stand with like a reasonably shattered Anthony Smith, he sure as shit does not want to stand with Thiago Santos.
Dude, Rakic starts throwing those leg kicks with, like savagely at those weak knees of Thiago Santos, they will be blasted to oblivion. His knees fall
See,
off.
you thought of the weak knees of Santos. I thought of the lack of fighting off his back of Santos. So really, it could be either. I mean,
It could be either, honestly.
I mean, it could be either or both. We don't know, but yeah, I think we're both on the same page as
Yeah.
far as who we think's going to win in that one. But again, there's another thing. We'll save it for later. And let's get into the odds and ends. All right, first of the odds and ends. And just for credit's sake, I got all of these from MMA Fighting. Just to put it out there. I forgot to include any MMA Fighting logos anywhere, but it's all from MMA Fighting. Joanna Jędrzejczyk lays out ideal scenario for UFC return, more money. Although in the article she reaffirms over and over she's very happy with the UFC, but she does say that she feels she's earned a little bit. She is owed a little bit more because of how her standing in the company and the standing with fans and the performances that she gives, title shot and fans. Yeah, how realistic do you think that is? Specifically, the title shot part.
I think all that's totally realistic, and I'm fine with all of it. This is a situation where it changes weight class to weight class. Certain people this year in certain weight classes, it benefited them greatly to stay active, to make themselves be seen, to continue to put on good performances so they're not lost in the shuffle and they remain relevant. All of that is basically, none of that applies to women's strawweight. You have Joanna, who fought for the belt in February of last year. Since then, essentially that entire weight class has just gone dormant. You've got the champion who can't fight, and from what Dana's saying, it's looking like we're only going to get her one fight from her this year also. So we're looking like she's out. Ariel said something about that on his show the other day, that it's looking like we're only going to get her to fight once this year.
Did she get injured?
Do up.
Did she get injured?
No, I think it's just with her lockdown and her how they are in China with her. Because Dana was talking about his one fight for her, he wants to do it in Asia. Okay. So that's interesting. But the thing is, so champion has not been active. No number one. I mean, Rose fought Andrade, and then Andrade left the division. So, like, sure, maybe Rose has established herself as number one contender. Other than that, like, no one of note has done anything in that division. Joanna is in a situation where she can literally do nothing. She can sit on the sidelines for a year and a half and walk right back in, and her next fight should absolutely be for the title. Against Rose, you got a built-in story, and against Weili, you got a built-in story. It's like, what's the point in Joanna coming back and just fighting somebody? There's no point in Joanna just fighting a number 6 girl, like Michelle Watterson to reaffirm herself. People know Joanna. She is like the Max Holloway of that division. Like, she's good. She can just chill. And yeah, later in the year, I say she comes back. Her next fight is the winner of Zhang Weili and Rose.
Yeah, actually, you bringing that up about Weili not really being able to leave Asia. I know the UFC has played with setting up apexes, not apexes,
PIs.
PIs. I actually think that it could be a really great strategy for them to set up apexes.
Yeah.
Along with them.
And do remote shows out of them.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool. You do micro cards, you could do regional shows out of them. Yeah. I think it'd be pretty cool. Then the next story, Leon Edwards says the UFC declined his offer to fight Michael Chiesa or Neil Magny on January 20th. Dude, what do you think is going on with Edwards, man?
Here's the thing. I'm fine with this for one simple reason. I think the UFC looked at this and they said, okay, what we had on the table before was Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev, a huge fight. It's going to have all kinds of eyes on it. Khamzat's already got over 1 million followers on Instagram. Leon Edwards doesn't even have 100K yet. So they're thinking, okay, big numbers. We all win. Either guy that wins, we get something big to work with out of that. That falls apart. So then they go, okay, we can have Leon Edwards fight, as we previously discussed, quote unquote, presumably boring matchups against Leon Edwards versus Chiesa or Leon Edwards versus Neil Magny. And you can have them fight at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday when everyone's at work. No eyes are going to be on it live, and it's going to be on ESPN Plus. And it's like, basically that like, forget any possible hype you could have built out of Leon Edwards. So they're looking at it like, okay, let's wait a couple weeks. You put Leon Edwards versus Khamzat in a main event on a prominent fight night card, prime time. It's just the better move. So I get it. That's fine with me.
Yeah. You put it like that. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I just feel Leon Edwards is the perfect combination of bad luck and poor choices.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's like Rashad Evans in 2008 minus blowing out his knee. It's like, God, dude, that was just, yeah. I'll start with the bottom one. Justin Gaethje likely to fight Charles Oliveira next.
Yeah.
I hate this.
I also hate this because it's just, I get it though. Okay, I hate it and I get it. They're looking at it like Oliveira, to me, clearly in that win over Tony Ferguson, established he should be one half of the vacant lightweight title fight in my eyes. But I get it. Some people say, okay, well, he just destroyed a Tony that just got destroyed by Gaethje. So they say, well, now you beat the guy that beat Tony. That's fine and all, but you have Gaethje coming off of getting obliterated by Khabib, and I'm like, man, your standing is not the same. And we'll just go right to it. Let's say they go ahead and book that fight, son. I got Justin Gaethje getting submitted in a couple of minutes. His ground game looked so horrible against Khabib. I think the moment it touches the ground, he gets submitted in an instant against Charles Oliveira.
I mean, I just think Oliveira should be a little bit more vocal here, really, because you put on a performance like that against Tony Ferguson. I am of the mind he should not be fighting anyone except the winner of Conor Poirier.
Yeah, you're right.
Like it makes no sense to possibly squander the incredible run that Oliveira is on a fight with a guy who's probably going to need another win, even if he does beat Oliveira to fight for a belt.
Yeah. To me, this feels like a big distraction to kill time with them while we get this Michael Chandler fight rolling. I feel like they got a lot of chips on if Michael Chandler can beat.
So weird.
It's very strange, but for whatever reason, they're really gambling on if Michael Chandler can get a big win and have all these eyeballs on him under the Conor fight. But whatever, I don't know. It's weird,
dude. It's really weird that I mean, actually, you know what? I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about really most athletes not named Conor McGregor. But like, do people really know who Michael Chandler is?
No.
Like, yeah. Do they? But again, as I was about to ask that question, that's why I said it. You know, your average person doesn't know who Charles Oliveira or Justin Gaethje or any one of these people are anyway. So I mean, I guess
he can at least speak English, which Charles Oliveira doesn't have.
And we've gotten to the bottom of it. There we go. All right, and the next one, Dana White sees mostly downside to open scoring in MMA. Now, this is one of those cyclical discussions we have in MMA. There's like, should weight cutting go away?
Yeah.
Should we have mandatory challengers and whatever? Should we? And now this one's back again. Should we have open scoring in MMA? And I've seen some people make some really, like Dana White here in this article, they make really bad arguments.
Yeah, you did really. It's not a strong.
It's a terrible argument. And it's the same argument I've seen from a couple different people in MMA is, what about the drama? What about the drama of the fight? You know, you're sitting there and you don't know who's going to be named the winner at the end of the fight. Like, that's not what we're talking. We're not talking about drama. We're talking about, like, a dude needs to know if he's getting boned.
Yeah, transparency, not drama.
If he needs to rally, he can rally.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, well, I hope I won.
Yeah.
You know, but then you still have the drama and open scoring.
Mm-hmm.
You still get a one round. They don't, like, the fight doesn't just end and they go, yeah, round 3 went to this guy, and then they hold someone. It's still
they walk out.
Right? Like it's the drama still exists. It's just like the fighters can know what the situation is.
Yeah.
And I know that there is the argument of, hey, if a guy is up 2 rounds and he knows he's up 2 rounds, by God, that round 3 is going to be boring as hell. I mean, maybe.
And we get that as it is.
Yeah, but the dude who knows for sure he's down 2, I am going to imagine that guy's going to go for broke in round 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I just feel like it's some bad faith arguments. I'm not even saying that I want open scoring. I'm just saying if we're going to talk about whether or not we want open scoring, let's have the actual conversation, which is it good for the sport, not the show? No one is saying they want open scoring because it's a better show.
Yeah.
That yeah, it's just bad arguments everywhere. All right, some quick ones. Kind of in a similar vein to Oliveira fighting, um, similar vein to fighting. Jesus Christ! Ugh, before he gets a title shot, Robert Whitaker is definitely going to have to fight again. Dana White kind of going back on his word after Robert Whitaker's most recent win, where he was like, well, I mean, he's a guy. Now he's changed his tune. He's going to have to win again. In my mind, what that means is Whitaker's going to have to win an interim title.
Man, that's the problem with like the closer we get to this fight with Blachowicz, I'm like, what's the point? Because Izzy's not planning to stay at light heavyweight. You've got a guy you've got number one contenders at both those weight classes ready to go. So it's just whatever. It's fine. Like obviously Whitaker's going to have to fight somebody else if Izzy's not even fighting in the weight class right now. But I also think it's like totally useless to put an interim belt on Whitaker versus anyone, because what are you doing with an interim belt other than saying, oh, you're the number one contender when Izzy comes back? It's like just whatever, just have him fight somebody in a normal fight and just that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you on it. Is like the champ stuff is all fine and it's all good and it's a thing that gets people excited, especially casuals. Um, but it's just more trouble than it's worth, man. It just muddies the waters for months, if not a full year, at these weight classes, because not only do these fighters have to, abandon their division, possibly lose to a guy who is not in their division, because like win, lose, or draw, Blachowicz isn't going anywhere. He's still going to be in the light heavyweight division. So you have a situation where, yeah, maybe he gets knocked out by Izzy, a dude who, yeah, has stated he's not a light heavyweight, doesn't want to stay at light heavyweight. So it's entirely possible that Blachowicz gets stopped or at least beaten by Adesanya, and then just his next fight is for the light heavyweight belt that
Yeah.
Adesanya just
Yeah.
vacated.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. It makes no sense because neither guy has truly cleaned their division out.
No.
So
Blachowicz just got here. And
yeah.
we just got over John, and it seems counterproductive, but whatever.
Well, next is a real quick one. Van Zant finally gets her Bare Knuckle FC um,
Debut.
her debut. She's fighting on their Super Bowl card.
Yeah,
Um,
no brainer.
all I can say is because Bare Knuckle FC. I don't know what
Yep.
kind of I'm not a fan.
No, me
Um,
neither.
Dana White warns of the illegal streamers of Conor McGregor's UFC 257 comeback. Apparently, they're cooking up something good over the UFC when it comes to busting illegal streams. Brad, like you, I'm already sweating in my hoodie. I don't know what kind of tech wizardry they got going on over the UFC, but Dana White thinks it's some next level stuff.
I don't know. We've heard this before. It seems like every time Conor or Khabib fights, they go around and they cut down all the streams. The next weekend, though, when David Figueiredo's fighting, yeah, the strings are back up again. They're not too concerned when it's
Well, yeah, I
anybody
mean,
above anybody else.
but it's a cost benefit analysis. Like when Figueiredo fights, the ESPN deal, from what's been reported, they get an automatic, like, whatever the price would be for 500,000 buys.
Yeah,
So chances are they're not coming close to that for Figueiredo.
nah,
Best case scenario, they're not coming close to that. So why does it matter if people stream it? When Conor McGregor fights, though, they're looking to exceed like 1.5 million. So
raise pay-per-view prices again.
yeah, they're looking to like break records with McGregor.
Yeah,
So if a sizable amount of people are watching via an illegal stream, that's the difference between a record-breaking number and like just a big pay-per-view.
yeah,
So I get it, because they probably get more benefit people just seeing who Figueiredo is,
yeah.
like just getting
For
eyeballs
sure.
on him.
Yeah,
So, because the UFC gets paid regardless, but in a Conor McGregor fight, the UFC is looking to get paid. So, uh, the last little bits of the odds and ends. Diego Sanchez announces that his next bout is more than likely his last. Um, Not too surprising.
no,
I
as it
mean,
should be.
yeah, I mean it should. His last win was a DQ, so
Yeah,
cool. I mean, I wish he would have done this a while ago.
yeah,
Um, just kind of a highlight on a piece I read today. It came out today. Cost of Being the King. Um, Stephen Morocco of MMA Fighting did a profile piece on Spencer Fisher. I wholeheartedly recommend reading it. It is heartbreaking. It is really, Spencer Fisher is a dude that we grew up watching, and you knew if Spencer Fisher was on the card, uh, you were gonna have fun for 15 minutes or however long the fight lasted.
yep,
And the piece illustrates um, the price he is currently paying for that. Um, yeah, it was hard to read, man. It was really hard to read.
yeah,
So, but I recommend that people who care about the sport and care about the fighters in the sport, please read it and get a snapshot of some of the things fighters go through after um, a career like this.
yeah.
It's yeah, man. It was awesome, awesome piece. Highly recommend it. And then we missed this last week because we were on our 12-day New Year celebration. But as we probably already brought it up earlier in the show, Michael Chandler takes on Dan Hooker. That is official. Very excited for that fight.
Yeah, yep. That's a big, big one for Michael Chandler. Um, God, I mean, Dan Hooker's a horrible matchup. I feel like the way to get this done, what would have been to make the Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson fight earlier, before Ferguson fought Oliveira, a much more winnable fight in my mind than a young, savage Dan Hooker that is really going to put it on Michael Chandler. I mean, Michael Chandler is small for lightweight, and Dan Hooker is huge for lightweight. Yeah, that should be a great fight. We'll see what we're gonna see what Michael Chandler's all about right out of the gate.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is Chandler getting his legs kicked off. I just don't see it going any other way, to be honest. Because Dan Hooker
He'll
is
wrestle a lot.
he needs to wrestle a
He
lot
should. He should. Yeah.
because Dan Hooker doesn't. Dan Hooker's not a guy who. I mean, Michael Chandler hits really hard, so it's not like it's impossible. But Dan Hooker is not a guy who typically gets shut off.
Yeah.
So if you're against Dan Hooker for 5 rounds and you're the shorter man, you're in big trouble for all the moments that you are not hanging on him. So yeah, dude, that is a rough that's a rough go for your debut.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, hey, look at it this way. There's not many hot prospects, like dudes who have a name from outside of the UFC, that win their debut.
Yeah.
Hardly ever.
Yep.
Who is it? Shields,
Eddie Alvarez.
Alvarez, yeah. Um, Melendez.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even even dudes who are super experienced typically don't win their UFC debut.
Mm-mm.
It's really weird, but they typically don't. So it's not really necessarily like if Michael Chandler loses, um, he's shot or anything. I still expect him to be a factor at 55 for a little bit at
Yeah.
least. So, but yeah, that's the show. That's all I got.
Yeah, boy. Back at it. New year 2021 coming in hot. New
Yeah,
format. It's
yeah.
going down.
Well, um, Brad, do you have any more thoughts before we get out of here?
I got nothing.
Same.
Glad to have fights back once again.
Yeah, me too, man. Well, I am whooped from the 12-day New Year celebration that just ended today. Um, so my name is Phil McKinley. That was Brad Jones, and we will see you on the next episode.
Peace.